All right, welcome everybody. Welcome to Frank Analysis. I'm your host Franco. It's been a while since I've had a guest on to discuss Movement for a People's Party. I've discussed with some petitioners who were ex-volunteers from different parts of the country, and I also talked to organizers like who were still in the Movement for a People's Party. I had on Jamin from Washington State. I also had Chris from Oregon, and I try to get both. I try to get as many sides to this story as I could, uh, discussing some of the problems within the party. And I think it's important for these problems to get addressed if we want this party to succeed. I've discussed on this show, my thoughts on third parties. I think that the only one I'd feel confident in would be one that is integrated with election integrity activists and addresses and has a concrete plan for how to overcome the obstacles in our rigged election system, our privately owned election system. So there's been some issues happening with Movement for a People's Party, and I'm here with the chair of the Washington State People's Party, Marc Mixon. Thank you very much for being here. How are you?
I'm well, Franco. Thanks. How are you?
I'm doing well. Yeah, so I just want to, get started by introducing you. You can let us know, how long have you been the chair of Washington State? How did you hear about the People's Party? What motivated you to get started? And then I can ask you some follow-up questions after that.
Sure. Okay. So I've been with the Movement for a People's Party for about a year. I joined before the convention last year as a hub coordinator in Washington State. Um, and Not a whole lot happened for a while, and I had to take some time off because of my job. Got real busy, so I stepped away for about 8 weeks. When I came back, there was a sort of that furor over the petition, and I was given the opportunity to sign that petition, and I read it. And at the time, I agreed with many of the feelings of lack of support or concrete plan, I suppose. But I just felt it was. Honestly, I felt like, yeah, I felt lack of support, but I've also been gone for the last 8 weeks, right? So I just felt we should just work on organizing our state, like knuckling down and getting the work done. So I talked to Jamin, talked him into listen, let's just work on our state. Let's just keep our heads down, keep out of all this stuff, and build our state up. And that's what we did. So Jamin and I were the sort of co-state coordinators for several months as we organized and built a structure here in Washington. We spent our time primarily focused on writing bylaws and our charter. So we incorporated as a nonprofit for limited liability purposes here in Washington State, and then we filed our Form 8871 with the IRS to be a full political organization, a full 527 political organization that has no 501c4 structure underneath it. So we are a state political party now. I'm the interim chair. I was selected that by the organizing group when we filed our paperwork, because we needed chair, vice chair, we needed the officers as we started filing our paperwork and becoming a party. I'm still interim. Our full elections are happening on August 28th. At which point we will have our state, our SCC, State Central Committee, State Coordinating Committee, formalized for the next year and a half. I think our next elections are scheduled in January of 2023. So yeah, that's where we are right now. We've just turned on our membership provisions about 2 weeks ago. I mean, up until that point, even though we had filed the paperwork to be a party, we were really getting our bylaws hammered out to make sure that our membership provisions were FEC compliant as a membership organization. And once we achieved that, we went ahead and turned on our ability to fundraise, accept members. All of us volunteers then officially joined. So now we are a membership organization taking members. peoplespartywa.org. If you're in Washington State, come on, join us, help us build a real voice of the people. So that's that's where
Yeah.
we're at.
Yeah. So the petitioners, who I've had on the show, have said that, they wrote that petition, they signed the petition because they felt like there was a lack of transparency from the leadership. They felt like there was no clear-cut plan for the different states for how to gain ballot access. There was no transparency with the finances. Um, I had on Jamin and Chris, like I said, who are from the West Coast, who, they signed that petition, but they decided to stay and help the People's Party. And you yourself have said that you signed it and you decided to stay. What were the reasons for why you signed the petition and decided to stay in the People's Party?
Well, to clarify, I was offered the opportunity to sign it, and I declined.
Okay.
I was not one of the petitioners. And in fact, while now I have met the people you've had on your show, I just met them. I was also one of the organizers for the March for Medicare for All here in Seattle. And so in the March for Medicare for All Slack in the national organization, I met several of these, several of the petitioners. And that also caused me to, I'll say that I had been of the opinion that we could just sort of, I don't know. There was a strong anti-MPP bias from many of the organizers in the March for Medicare for All. And so I attended meetings where the issue got very contentious. And it made me believe that it was time to start making sure people understood the distinction between the movement for a People's Party, right, and actual parties, and how, because yes, I would say, my reasons for staying, I don't think they had a lot of a plan, but it's hard. Like, we didn't either when we started, right, man? It's not, building a political party is not easy in this country.
Understood.
Yeah. Right. So long and the short of it is, it's a difficult task, and there's not really anything we can do to, like you mentioned when you started, electoral politics is really rigged against us, right? We can't work within that system, I don't think, without having some strong method to push it. So building this movement, building this People's Party is very important. But it's also very important that we understand what the path to becoming a nationwide party of the people is. And that has been obfuscated, I guess.
Yeah, so,
I talk a lot, I'm sorry.
You're not. No. You're talking in just the right amount. And feel free to talk however long you want, because we want to get as much information from you as we can. So what are your current feelings right now about the People's Party?
Well, I mean, I still believe that building this nationwide party of the people is our only avenue. When I helped organize my stay with Jamin, we organized the people with the belief that we all needed a real voice. We started every one of our state meetings with a statement of intent, we called it, I think. We said that we are residents of the state of Washington and we're volunteers for the movement for a People's Party. We came together dedicated to building a new major party of the people in Washington state and nationwide. A party that was free of corporate influence or money. And everyone in our state is still really dedicated to that, right? So currently, I feel like we are not walking the talk. Like, you cannot expect to be different if you don't do different, right? You need to give the members of your party a say. I was a Green Party voter for 20 years, and I left last year because I was a fan of Ian Schlackman, and then I was a fan of Dario Hunter, but really talking to some of the people inside, there were backroom machinations to get Howie on the ballot. And I felt like I saw the leadership of the Green Party disenfranchise the members in the state parties to put the person they wanted in place. And I still voted for Howie. Actually, that's not true because I failed to sign my ballot and I never cured it because it didn't feel like there was any point. But I did feel that's when I started organizing with the Movement for a People's Party, or why, really. It's like, I can't do that. I can't vote for Democrats, and I can't support a party that will disenfranchise its members for the will of a smaller group, right? Like, so currently, MPP is in the process of trying to form an organization that can be recognized as a party, right? They're not, right now, MPP, which they've changed their name in Michigan now. They've renamed themselves People's Party in Michigan. But they're incorporated as a directorship in Michigan, which means that only the board of directors has votes, right? There's 3 people who have a say on that. And in order to become a party, they must change into a membership organization, right? And a membership organization has specific rules that the FEC recognizes. Right? We worked really hard in Washington to make sure that our membership provisions would meet those FEC thresholds. The current organization does not, and so they're just not giving the members a say, and they just need to make this transition. So I'm concerned that if you do not give your volunteers and working members and the people who are putting in the hard work to build parties in the states and nationwide, if you don't give them a say in how that party is structured, if you don't give them actual voice in the process, that they will not move forward and sign, right? Like, I know I can speak for Washington volunteers that if they do not see a process, I can speak for Washington members, and I've been directed to, which is why I'm here, right? I'm not flying off the handle. Our coordinator circle met, and it was demanded, in fact, that I start talking to people to explain the difference between what MPP is now, what it's going to become before it can be a party, and what the state's roles in that process are, right? Because my members did not feel that they saw a democratic process take place in the vote for a national organizing committee. Some of them who have formerly been with the Democratic Party and run as Democrats said they've never seen anything so disenfranchising among even the Democrats. Appalled was the word. And yeah, I've been trying not to take this step, and my membership, I'm a representative, right? I have a constituency. I have to follow through with what they want. So that's why I'm out here now and talking too much.
Don't even worry, man. You're not talking too much. Just give me, all the information you can. So has this been, this concern about how the MPP leadership structure is undemocratic, has this concern been raised to Nick Brana or other higher ups within the People's Party? Has it?
Of course. Yeah, of course.
Okay. And how did that go?
They currently seem very resistant to implementing a democratic structure right now. It is, there are reasons, and the reasons appear to differ depending on who you talk to in leadership. And they include, we've got a timeline, and this could take too long, and we want to make sure we have a process where everyone gets a say. And I mean, I understand all of the reasons given, and I believe democracy can be implemented relatively quickly. I don't think it's that difficult. We've done this before, and we've, as a party and as volunteers, we spent a lot of time researching voting structures, and there are people out there that will help us conduct votes. We have our own applications, right? It's really about defining the membership in a legal and logical way, and then just giving people a say. And it's just not that hard. we can we've heard for a long time, just wait. Again, we're going to compromise. Just wait. Trust us and wait your turn. We've heard that from multiple parties, from multiple generations, and that's just evidence doesn't show it, right? And so, sorry, I'm here because I want to see. I want to see. I've heard you say things for a year. I'd like to see you do something.
So I was told that there was new rules that MPP implemented, and one of those rules is that the leadership is now, which wasn't elected by the members, can withhold power for a longer time. I just want to clarify, from you, if that's the case, and what other new rules were implemented.
There were proposed rules for
Okay.
how the National Organizing Committee would be formed. And the way those rules were proposed struck at least my membership, and seems many volunteers within MPP, as undemocratic. And the vote to confirm those rules felt, to the members in my state and many other volunteers, undemocratic. I have not had time to fully digest all those rules. That's part of the problem. In point of fact, the rules were released via email to their mailing list at the same time voting opened. And we had 48 hours to vote before the voting closed. So a very short time window, and the proposed rules were never shared with any of the volunteers. None of us were organizing in the states. No one had any say in them. They were just dropped. And then the vote was presented as, again, in an email saying, hey, follow this link to read our rules. And so then vote. Click here to vote. Do you want to form a national organizing committee with the rules on the link? Or do you not want to form one and not have the People's Party? It's not worded that way, but that was sort of the impression that was given. And so, of course, respondents would click yes, almost overwhelmingly. If you were not inside the organization working, it seems logical to me that people who care enough to open MPP's emails and hear that they want to form the national party. Do you want to form the national party? Well, of course you're going to click yes, right? Mm-hmm. And 93% of the 493 respondents to the 100,000 plus emails did. And that's another part of our issue, I think, really, is that their Action Network database, the mailing list, is not a membership. I know they'd like to think of it as a membership and say things like, historically, we've asked all our members to have input. And I think it's great to get broad approval, right? If you can get as broad approval on questions as possible, I think that is great. But the fact is, the FEC defines that list as a mailing list. It's an asset. When Washington became a legal organization, we had to stop using that because that's defined as an asset that has value, right? Like, we'd have to pay them $70,000 for the use of that list, right? So we have to develop our own list. It's not a membership. The FEC defines membership a different way. So it feels disingenuous to have a list as you're trying to become a membership organization and not just enact membership rules and define an actual membership, right? And then the whole voter turnout is crazy. I've asked how many emails went out. They have not responded to me about how many emails went out. But over a year ago, or close to a year, I don't know, sometime last year, I remember hearing Nick say that we had over 100,000 people, right? Like, they talk about how many people are in the party, and what they mean is how many people have signed on for their mailing list. And so that's who got to vote. Like, if you've ever signed up for a newsletter or anything, Franco, you got the vote. It's probably in your junk email. Anyone who's ever signed up for MPP could have voted on that. Hundreds of thousands of people probably could have voted on that. 493 did. So that's, again, part of the problem.
Okay, I'm on their email list, and I don't look at all the emails that I get sent by them.
So if you were to if you're on their email list, I bet you had a vote. You should, I'm going to just take a peek here. Because it goes to my promotions, so that's where it would probably go to you.
So, what do you think that? Okay, so before I ask this next question that I was thinking about just now, I want to ask this one first. Do you think that there should be new leadership? Like, do you think that the current leadership should be replaced with the new leadership?
I'm ambivalent.
Oh.
Honestly, I'm not. I want leadership that's going to represent people and going to follow through. Right? I want leadership that's going to be honest and include us on their team. I am ambivalent whether that is this leadership or other leadership. Right? But I want to be on the team. Right? We're playing the same political game on the same political field right now. Right? We're trying to create a party, trying to create a new nationwide party of the people.
Yeah.
And when you're playing the same game on the same field, Franco, there's only two options, man. You're either on our team or you're the opposition, right? And as someone who has organized a state party, I've never felt on their team. I've never felt included. How can you win if you won't tell your players your playbook? If you won't tell them your strategy? If you won't let them know how you intend to win the game? How does anyone win that way, right? I need to be on the team. And so when I talk to MPP's coordinator circle about these issues and have been asking questions since I was offered the chance to sign the petition, so I started trying to ask questions, right? And I'm also a union guy. I negotiated my contract several times. And I feel very familiar with what it sounds like to talk to management, to talk to people who keep their cards close to their chest and don't want to share with you and don't want to tell you because, they're negotiating against you, right? And talking to the coordinator circle to me personally has always felt a little bit like talking to management, which, makes sense because they are a corporation. Corporation is a hot word, right? That's just how we work in this society. We are also incorporated. Every political party in this country is incorporated. That's just how this stuff works. So I don't want to use like hot button words like try to prejudice anything. They are a directorship. There's many types of corporations. They are one that only the board of directors gets a say. That's not commensurate with a movement for a people's party. Give people a say, right? That's really where I come down on this. So if people choose this leadership, great. As long as we have like legitimate defined electorate and a legitimate voting process, I don't care. Like when I signed, like if you go to the Internet Archive thing, when I signed up, they said the leadership was going to be elected annually. And in response to the petition, the website was changed and that was removed. So now leadership is not going to face elections, right? And leadership that claims they will be elected and then changes that so they don't have to be does not sound commensurate with a People's Party, right? Like, I hear you say you want to be a People's Party. I want to be a People's Party. I have been working all year to be a People's Party. I've recruited a lot of people. We've organized. We've written bylaws. We've become a party, and we desperately want a nationwide People's Party. Part of the mind if I get into the stupid legally stuff that I've had to read and learn recently, man? So the way you can become a nationwide party now is that you have to become a membership organization. And then you have to have state parties or state entities, as that state allows, that are able to raise their own funds. They have to be independent, legal state entities that can raise and spend money in what's called a non-federal account to support and get local candidates elected. That is the type of party we are right now. We are a legal party who our purpose in life is to raise and spend money to get local candidates elected. To become a nationwide party, you need people like Washington, the People's Party of Washington, to affiliate with you. And then you, as the nationwide organization, that nationwide membership organization, you then need to raise and spend money for federal candidates, because as a nationwide organization, you have a federal account. We have non-federal accounts, you have federal accounts. So you then need to raise and spend money for federal candidates in your affiliated states. And then when enough of them get on the ballot, the FEC will declare you a party. That's how it works. The only way to become a new major party of the people is to have state parties with non-federal accounts want to affiliate with you. So it seems very important to me that you give those state parties and every state entity that you are going to want to affiliate with you a voice in that process.
So I imagine there's other members that share, the same, sentiment that you feel about the direction that the leadership is taking, or I guess the not the unclear direction that the leadership is taking. What would you tell people to do? Like people who are, rooting for this third party to be, a victorious one that's able to take down the Republican and Democratic Party. What would be your advice to people for how they can push, some of the members in leadership, like Nick Brana, so that they can change the structure of MPP so that it can be a more democratic one?
Well, okay, so the structure of MPP is going to change. I mean, there just is that organization, and it's already not that name, but I'm going to keep using that because it's a convenient shortcut for the directorship in Michigan, right? But it will cease to be, and then a membership organization called the People's Party will exist. So the structure is going to change. It has to change, right? It's becoming a membership organization. So if it's something you in the States care about, there's a few things. Participate in the process right now. It seems weird for me to say, but if we do not participate in the process, then what say do we have? So if you're in MPP and you're in the States right now, regardless of how you feel about how these rules were put in place, regardless of how you feel about the legitimacy of the rules, and there's lots of talk about super delegates and how you feel about appointed versus elected representatives, participate, right? Because that doesn't mean, like, I had someone text me and ask, I hear a lot of states are about to unaffiliate from MPP. Is that true? And the answer is, well, no, because, right, there's not a party right now. MPP is not a party. There's not a party to unaffiliate from. That's just not how it works. We'll participate in the process. We'll send our delegates. We'll do our best to put in actual democratic bylaws and enact a charter that makes sense. And if the final product is something that the people in those state organizations support, then they affiliate. And if it is not, then they do not, right? So I don't know who may or may not affiliate. I know how Washington feels about democratic processes, and I have pretty good idea of what sort of set bylaw, like what sort of bylaw provisions Washington members would find acceptable. I know I was talking to some representatives in the Massachusetts State Central Committee today, and they also are an official filed with the Secretary of State, right? I helped certify the vote on their council. They have a legitimate elected leadership, more legitimate than mine. I'm still interim. I've talked to people in Colorado, also who are elected leadership, and they all intend to participate in the they all intend to participate in the process, or they would all like to. They have not voted. That's the thing about democratic, organizations, is we have to vote first. So the people I've talked to would like to see their organizations participate in the process, but those same people say, but they cannot vote for things that are not truly democratic. So if you care, you should have those state meetings, try to be your state representative. If you're in MPP and you feel like people are not being democratic, you should speak up. I think elected leadership is always more legitimate, right? Since we started our group in Washington, I said, listen, we're all self-selecting here, and that's great because people need to get things done. And that's of course how MPP started too, right? I mean, these people just wanted to get something done. They came together to do a thing, and like we in Washington came together to do a thing, inspired by and recruited by them. But sooner or later, hopefully, we've been working so we could have our elections as quickly as possible. And we did delay them once because we felt like we wanted more people to have a say. We felt like our electorate pool was too small. So we kept trying to put the call out bigger and see if we can, figure out ways to boost our membership. But finally, being inspired by other states, at some point, you got to just have your elections, right? So and I don't think democracy is ever a waste of time, right? Like I've heard people in leadership say, well, it's a waste of time to have elections now because they're all going to change here in a few months. Democracy a waste of time, man? Really? We're building a voice of the people. Democracy is a waste of time. I can't. I just can't.
It's never a waste of time. Yeah.
Never a waste of time.
Yeah.
Never a waste of time, man.
Yeah, and it's supposed to be the people's party, so it's supposed to be representative of the people. So yeah, I'm in full agreement. Marc Mixon, thank you, very much for being here. The solutions that I have, going forward, like I said in the beginning, I don't, until I see a third party that has a concrete plan for how to overcome these obstacles for our private election system, I'll see, direct action and opting out of the system as a better alternative. And I discuss solutions in, more detail with my audience members on Thursdays. We all get together, we brainstorm ideas. We talk about how we can talk to our communities more, how we can inform more people, and about, how we can organize, to grow our own food and all that. But, I have nothing against people who want to organize, for the third party. And I admire the efforts that you're taking to try to make it a more democratic and a more improved party, so that you guys can be successful during elections. So Marc Mixon, thank you very much for being on the show.
Yeah, you're welcome. I would like to engage you in that conversation sometime as well, if I may, because what you're talking about is exactly our strategy for moving forward, right? It's like,
yeah,
you need to coordinate, you need to build solidarity. The only way that we are going to make a third party successful is if we have active volunteers in like every voting precinct. If we have enough volunteers that we can take care of our communities in a radical way, like if you have a network, they don't need to be our volunteers. If we are just the coordinators and helping to bring everyone together in solidarity, if those of us who are underneath the ruling class, if we can get together and build a movement that truly is in every nation, we can have general strikes, in every county, in every voting precinct. I get so excited when I start talking about organizing. we can do those things. We can have radical self-care. We can grow our food. We can police our own communities, so we don't need to have cops out there anymore. Or we can have general strikes, or we can elect third-party people. The only way is the power of the people. That's how we do it. So I'd love to engage you in those conversations sometime too. And
wonderful.
It sounds great to me.
Yeah. If you join the Discord, and everybody else who's watching, if you join the Discord, which is in the description, and some of the audience members could probably link it in the chat. We can talk about those things, and we're actually going to talk about it today, since it's Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern time. So Marc Mixon, again, thank you very much for coming on the show. I appreciate your time, and to everybody else, stay informed.
All right, thank you.